I really love Fallout, and one of my favorite games in the franchise is Fallout 4, just after New Vegas, because this one is a masterpiece. And some of my favorite enemies in the game are the Mirelurks, because I've always had a thing for crab's design. So I've bought the minis from Modiphius, and today we're going to unbox and paint them. Let's go! So let's open the box. We can see it comes with two identical models, which is a bit disappointing. On the other hand, the resin used is pretty good. Far better than the terrible fine cast, though maybe not as good as some resin mixes I've seen. But the cast is perfect. I didn't spot any flaw like air bubble or anything else, which is a big plus. The assembly process is very easy. These are two monopose models, so I had both of them assembled in almost no time. It will just need a little bit of green stuff to be perfect. I only had to sand the bases a bit more, since the supports were quite big on tools. I'm back with the model primed in black. So which scheme am I going for? I don't think I'll go for the classic Mirelurk. I'll go for the soft shell one instead, since I prefer the green color for them. With that decided, let's start by painting the whole model in an olive green tone. Now I'll define the color variation before applying the washes. I'm starting with a light green dry brush to bring out the volume. This green paint also helps the color match the tone of the in-game model. Next, I darken the limbs with a mix of that same green and a warm brown. By dry brushing it on, you can already see how it creates a transition between the green and bronze areas. Then I'll dry brush a dirty orange onto the limbs to enrich their tones. I'm applying it very lightly and focusing on the edges, especially for the front part of the legs. After the orange, I warm up the green section with a deep natural green. This will help bring all the tone of the model together. For the pincher and claws, they're much paler, so I'll give them a dry brush of a greenish white. With these done, we can move on to the next step. Now let's apply the washes. I'll start with a dark green shade all over the model. And once dry, I do a second pass inside the shell. Next, I'll apply a brown shade over the darker areas like the arms and legs, but avoiding the claws. I'll also add some patches on the shell for extra color variation. Let's wait for everything to dry completely before moving on. Now it's time to highlight the model. I'll do this in two steps. Dry brushing first, then layering. For the dry brushing, I'll start with a natural bright green over the entire model, avoiding the brown areas. For the brown section, I lightly dry brush at the start of each area to create a smooth transition. You can see on the in-game model that the edges of the shell are yellowish, so I'll replicate this effect by mixing some green with yellow and dry brushing it along the main shell edges. Next, wherever I applied the previous green, I'll come back with a lighter green to finish highlighting two sections. And for the brown areas, I'll dry brush a dirty orange on the front edges of the legs and on the prominent part of the arms. I'll also add some patches on the shell to simulate some dirt laying on top of the Mirelurk. And I refine these dirt patches by brushing some brown paint on them. Now time for the layering steps. I'm starting with the most tedious one. I'm layering the cracks, the main edges of the shell, the mandible and the face with a very pale green. I'm also dotting all of the bump on the shell with it. Dotting these is probably the longest part of the painting process, but it's definitely worth it. Then I'll move on to the claws. These will be layered with the same greenish white paint we use for their base coat. This paint will also be useful for finishing the highlight on the mandibles. And I finish the clothes by layering an even paler green on top. If you feel like it, you can add a subtle touch by painting this layer in a veiny or dot pattern on the larger clothes. We're almost done. On the in-game model, you can see the exposed flesh in the joints. So I paint these joints very simply. First, I apply a base coat of greenish white with a small brush. You'll just need a bit of precision to avoid going over what you've already painted. Then I apply a green washes to give them a bit of volume. No need to overthink it more than this. Just like that, it does the job perfectly. And last things left to be painted are the eyes. I'll do something a bit unusual for these, since they're bulging in the game but hollow on the model. With a very small brush, I'll place a tiny drop of undiluted deep green paint in each cavities, and then I let it dry, the model laying face down. You might need to do this twice to make sure to get some nice bulging eyes. And for the final step, I lightly add a dot of white on each eye to create a reflection effect. Here we are. Our Mirelurks are done and ready to hit the table. I gave them a nice coastal base and they really look at home on it. And the soft shell scheme really looks good. Thanks a lot for watching this Clemoniak's tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, and let me know if you'd like to see more Fallout painting guides on the channel. Alright, farewell everyone, it was Clemoniak and I see you next time.